Greetings, Nick with Sweetwater here, and to my left I have our special guest, the one and only Rabea Massaad. And if you're one of the 1.5 million people that watched the Riff War thing he did with our good friend Fluff and Jared Dines a few years back, you'll recognize that as being the pivotal riff, riff number 3. I call it the knockout punch. And that's what he's about to show us. But before that, let's quickly dive into how our friend here approaches drop D, because he's certainly a lot less Neanderthalic than I am. I'm a one-finger guy with 2 little tricks, and I'll quickly show you what they are, and then he'll correct me and teach me to be better. Hurrah! So this is my approach. Firstly, obviously, the wonderful one-fingered power chord. No prizes there, but then there's the chord I stole from Jerry Cantrell, which is D minor 7, my favorite of all chords, this one here. Played in 2 positions, there and there. My last trick, apart from some happy accidents, the one I call the growl chord. That's all I've got. Kind of sad. This guy has a lot more, so without further ado, let's learn from one of the masters of drop D, Rabea.
Thanks, sir. All right.
So what's your approach to this tuning? Because you have a width and a depth, and you bring out some emotions too that I can't. I just bring out madness.
Yeah, I think it was to be honest, it was discovering major and minor inversions of a drop D power chord. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
The idea that you could obviously take that, like you said, the index finger sort of power chord, but then by applying your pinky a few frets higher, you can create a minor sort of sound of that same thing. So,
yep.
And then 1 fret higher than that, the major version. And so those 2, when I first started doing it, it opened so many doors.
Right.
Because it meant suddenly I could add more melody to the power chord sound.
Right.
And I started branching out from there, really. Those 2, though, were big. You know, being able to do that. So you could play like... And immediately you've got this, like, it's more movement melodically.
Yeah.
So that was huge, and I spent a long time doing that and getting into that and trying to write riffs that way when I was younger. And then accidentally I discovered like a sort of passing chord version of it. Now, I'm not a theory guy, so I couldn't tell you what the
Me neither, so I can't respond with, that's what you're playing.
Yeah, neither, I couldn't tell you
Just be, oh, that sounded cool.
Exactly.
That's as far as I go.
Yeah, so and that I did by accident. I think I was going for a sort of minor version, but I ended up accidentally fretting a fret higher on that A string, so it created, and I'm just going to move it down a fret so it sounds better, would be.
Yeah, I think I've hit that by accident, but never knew what it was, and I've never used it like that as a passing chord. That's pretty smart. It's like,
yeah,
it's almost an augmented, I guess you'd say, because you're raising the 5th, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. Again, I'm not a theory guy, so
Right.
I couldn't really concur and be like, that's exactly what's going on melodically.
Just sounds cool, right?
But it sounds cool. We can agree on that, I'd say.
Enough said.
Exactly. Yeah, that was a big one as well, because again, it just added another melodic sort of angle to what I was trying to do. So I started working on, I guess you'd call them chord scales, because you know how like in diatonic stuff you have like that kind of thing.
Yeah, all of the chords that exist within the scale by staying within the scale.
Yeah. So I did that, took the same idea, but did it with these power chords.
Right.
So you'd be like, and come up with different versions. That was like more of a major kind of sound.
Right,
and
yeah.
you could do minor, and you know, just start working on these different sort of chord scales, as it were. It's the easiest way to describe it.
And I like the way, like your happy accident, if we can call it that, your happy accident chord is a great sort of tension that needs resolving.
Mm-hmm.
So that adds to the melodic.
It is tense, isn't it? That sort of...
Yeah, that creates a great tension. It sounds great, but you want to go, please move away, move up.
Yeah. It just needs resolution.
Yep.
And so I got a lot of mileage out of that, you know. And I guess elaborating from there would be, I started to explore the other strings, because for a long time in the drop D thing, I felt like I was kind of cheating. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because you can play a chord like this.
Yeah.
So for ages, I'd be thinking to myself, oh yeah, but it's a drop tuning, so it's kind of like easier. It's like the easy way out. And so I kind of used to wind myself up about it and started to work out if you could play more interesting chords with a drop tuning. Obviously, the answer is yes. It's just a case of finding them. And,
Right.
you know, I wasn't trying to do anything groundbreaking. It was literally just a case of exploring it because I liked overall the aesthetic, the playing aesthetic of drop tunings.
Right.
I like the fact that you can just play an open D sus2 and it gives you that. Barely have to do anything and it's just epic, right?
Yep.
So I was sold on the drop thing, and then coming back to the idea of bringing in the other strings, I kind of felt like I was comfortable with the first three for the major, minor and all these kind of things, and then I started to add more to it. So for example, let me play we've also got the minor. If I was to add underneath that a major third, so. And if I take that off. That kind of sound, you have to be careful not to ring out that B string like I just did there.
Right.
But it also creates movement, so.
It's nice.
Again.
And then there were 4 strings.
Yeah, exactly. So I keep just like building it. But let's say you take out that major or the minor and you just want to play a thick sounding bar chord. Well, I almost habitually now never do this. I always do.
Yeah, so it's root fifth, you're adding another 5th octave and that gives you that girth.
Exactly. And so you can see a pattern starting to form now. You start working out, what can I do with this string? Let's move it up now, move it up and move it up. Before I worked out what I like to call my secret sauce with for me, not for everybody else, I'm talking like internally, like my secret sauce of chords where I felt like, this is my infinite pool of inspiration now. Before I found that, I started moving to the other strings again. So after the G string, I started to realize, oh, hang on a minute, when I'm barring like this, much like a bar chord, and it's like a penny drop moment.
Yeah.
When you play a bar chord, like this shape, it's E major shape, but you've turned your index finger into this nut, right?
Yeah.
And you're moving it up and down the fretboard like this, and it was like,
yeah.
oh, well that's what you do.
Yeah.
And it all just, so it really made sense that way. Apply that concept to drop D. When I'm playing down here, I was just saying a minute ago, that exactly the same thing, so pretend that my index finger's the nut, move it up to here.
You got a huge, that's
super
great.
wide chord now, and it follows that root fifth thing you're talking about, and the whole thing just sounds very powerful.
Yep.
So obviously then, I was trying to work out, can I play like the minor version of that? Well, of course, because if I'm playing this D sus2 shape, as it were, you just have to add, I just have to add that extra note to get there. Sharpen it for major. So again, I was like, oh, I'm just working out, this is just constant penny drop moments. This was over a couple of years when I started getting way more into like writing tunes as opposed to trying to play like extreme solos and stuff, Like when I was like, I want to write riffs now. I was just so into it that I kept discovering new stuff. So, and now getting on to my favorite part of it all, which was where you just select a couple of strings that really make a big difference melodically. So just like the whole major and minor, it was always about trying to find out how much extra stuff can I add within this shape, and it started to get a bit restrictive.
Right.
Because I'm barring, and I've got to keep this here for the major and minor, and it's like, oh, this is annoying. There's only so much I can get away with in here.
Right.
So then I just stumbled across doing it, but using the G string instead. So if I'm doing the major, I can do it here. I can do minor like that. And immediately, it's changed the fundamental shape of how I'm playing it, so it changes where I can put my fingers and the kind of chords that you can play, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, the minor, you could go... Or like, it's just a minor.
Yeah, so it's almost like the jazz comping trick, which is lose the fifth, because it doesn't say major or minor, so you're kind of dumping the fifth out of the equation and creating that space, which actually makes it sound bigger, which is weird. Less notes sounds more.
I know exactly what you mean.
I don't, but
yeah, less is more. But it's true. So going back to this just two-note thing, the dyad, as it were, you've got the major, minor, and it was like, oh, I'll start moving these around, see what happens.
Cool.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah, that's great.
And then it was a case of like, okay, well, let's mess with the shapes and see if you can add anything else. And over the course of however long I've been doing it now, it's just kind of, they've all kind of melded into one. So, you know, when I'm playing around in the drop stuff, and I might mess around with chord voicings. Just loads of that all the time, and they were all just variations of what we've just been talking about.
Right, yeah, so it was just penny after penny after penny, and now you're up to like £5, right? Like
exactly.
£5, and
a whole fiver's worth of chord theory there.
Yeah, perfect. So, which leads us nicely on to the riff that won the war, in my humble opinion. Sorry, Fluff, mate. And,
yeah.
And I don't know you, but yeah, your riffs were good. This guy that was the punch. So that's got some...
a lot of that in it.
Yeah, and there's a width to it. So can you quickly break that down as to how that came about?
Absolutely. So that riff 3 of the Riff Wars video, firstly, I guess the easiest one is the rhythm of it all, the way it's kind of like... Literally the only reason that was the rhythm was because the drums were going dugga-dun, dugga-da, dugga-dun, dugga-dun. That was like, well, it makes sense to follow that. So that's out of the way, that's the rhythm sorted.
Right.
So yeah, I think because that was kind of signed off, it was a case of, oh, let's make it interesting. What I originally would have done is something more predictable, dugga-dun, 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 just stay on the open or something.
Right.
But when it came to doing the actual riff, it's funny because I don't think of it like a riff. I thought of it more as like a chord progression, like a chorus chord progression thing, but it is, I suppose, in a Riff Wars video. So in any case, it's less like fiddly from a sort of archetypal kind of riff standpoint, and it's more just a rhythm with some chord progression in there.
Right.
So the first chord, I suppose you'd consider it to be major.
Yeah.
You could play as a minor, as just a straight up power chord for the first one. But I thought it sounded a little bit more triumphant to have that major third.
That's a good word, triumphant.
Triumphant.
The riff is triumphant, actually.
Yeah, a triumphant riff.
The hero rises.
Yeah. So yeah, having it's immediately like, it just has a I don't know how to describe it.
That's an emotion to it.
Yeah. You can also play that exact same shape here, which is my favourite way to play it. But for the sake of the riff needing that movement, I needed to bring it down here.
Gotcha.
So that'll be the first chord. So now that we know where we're at, I'll play you essentially the chord progression without the rhythm. So you've got those are the first 4 chords. So taking that major and the minor inversion thing. So you know, that'd be the first bit.
And that really adds to the, dare I say it, to repeat you, triumphant nature of it all.
Yeah, it's a cool progression. Just that kind of like but instead I'd made it major. Those shapes that I'm playing are those major and minor inversion kind of vibes. So root and then choose your major and minor,
right.
You know, whatever, but from the A string. So the easiest way to think about that is when we play these chords, just take everything out except these 2. It's the same with the major, so you can play.
Yeah.
It's just simplifying everything.
Yeah.
But with all that distortion and the rhythm and everything, you only really need to hear the main information, which is the sort of root note, and then is it happy or sad, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Mission accomplished, my friend.
Yeah, so that'd be the first bit, just that. And then you hear a little turnaround, which is back to the open. So back to there. So let me play that first bit, just being. generally the vibe so far with this kind of riff and the direction I was going on was like to sound happy, but you know, not like happy clappy, just a bit happy. Because happy clappy, you know what I mean. It's like it's too much.
It's more of a yes.
Yeah. You want a fist in the air.
Fist in the air, not hand clapping.
Exactly.
Well done. Yeah,
totally.
Nice one.
So anyway, that would be the kind of first half, and the second half isn't too dissimilar, except you start on that major, and it's more of the whole riff needs like a start, middle, and end. Like it needs resolution. So you've got the first part, which is taking you somewhere, but it needed to come back.
Right.
So the idea being like, and where can I go from here? I can't do the same thing again because it's just going to keep rolling over. It needs to go somewhere else. So, you know, like it feels like it's got some resolution happening now. So we've got.
Nice touch there.
Yeah.
With the stretch again. Yeah.
Yeah.
The color again.
Yeah. And then the only reason that the turnaround is in there after that is because there was a drum fill and the riff was only that long, so it needed to end somehow.
Right.
If this was a song, that last bit, that wouldn't be there.
Right.
That was just to like finish the riff off. It needed to end, and so instead of ending it on the root, the opening chord, it's better to end it on a. So it's unresolved.
Yeah.
You know.
Start triumphant, leave with tension.
Exactly that.
Nice.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Took the words right out of my mouth.
That'll be £5 then. £5 I should say. A fiver.
Just right, so now it's a £10 riff, isn't it?
Is. Exactly.
We've earned £10 through this video. So yeah, that's the general gist for the whole kind of riff. But obviously, I should probably contextualize it now. So I'll kind of play it slowly with less gain. It's more of what's going on, but. Yeah, I'll just do the whole riff, I guess.
Yes, please, because that will make thievery even easier.
There you go.
Thanks for that, and just so you know, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again, I have seen transcriptions of this on the Googles. The ones I've seen that weren't done by him are, as just proven, incorrect. Too many notes, my friends. Less is more. But having said that, hold on a second, I just realised something.
Yeah.
On the penultimate chord before the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't you hitting all 6 strings?
Yes, that's a good point actually.
Can you explain?
Okay, it's really, in a nutshell, it's the same as doing the major, the power chord from the bottom string. It's the same as doing the major, like that. But then I'm adding the, and then the last 2 strings, so you got, again, that's a good example of me exploring further than the 3 strings on that shape. It was like, oh, it actually sounds really cool all the way down.
Cool.
That's what that is. So it's really simple. It's just that major power chord shape. Add I call it the swearing finger. Add the swearing finger there on the G string, and then ring out the B and the E. So then you get, and that rhythm I was just going, so you've got, and then you do the. I love riff speak. So yeah, you do that at the end after that. So that's all that was.
Now I'm going to reiterate what I looked at the comments, and there are so many comments going, go to 144, go to 143, go to 145, because that's where that riff kind of starts, give or take a second or so. A lot of people said that needs to be a song.
Yes.
Has it become a song yet?
No.
It needs to be, because it truly is a triumphant moment. It could be the end of a movie.
Yeah, maybe. To be fair, it's people just liked that riff for some reason, and like you say, it's got a triumphant sound to it. And maybe it was just a good way to end that video, or the way that it had a bit more impact, being the last thing in the video. I don't know. Yeah, maybe I'd make a song out of it. I was really chuffed that people liked it that much, but I was kind of like, if that becomes a song, everyone's going to sit listening to it, just waiting for that bit.
Waiting for that one.
So the rest of the song's just irrelevant, isn't it? Because it's just like, oh, we're just waiting for that riff. So I may as well just play that riff like 50 times in quick succession, like over and over again. Do one of those YouTube 10-hour loop things.
Yeah, there you go, or a YouTube short, or you could sell it to Sylvester Stallone for the Expendables 12.5.
I've got a solution.
Go on.
I'll just rip that video from Fluff's channel and make a 10-hour loop of that riff, and then upload it to my channel. and then we're fixed.
Yeah.
Sorry, Fluff.
All I can say now is thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. Very welcome.
Consider those ideas officially stolen. You do the same, my friends. Rabea, we're out. See ya.